Hey Wargamers, today we're going to talk about another Brigade Detachment Tau Army list, this time at 2,000 points. If you're unfamiliar with this series, basically I take army lists that are sent to me by my patrons over on Patreon and review them. So if you want to get in on this, go ahead, head over to my Patreon page and join our community there. But yeah, this time it's sent to me by a patron who really hasn't had a chance to explore the army yet, just getting into the hobby. And so my goal here is to provide an army list that's going to be a good teaching army, well-rounded, but still have some notable offensive capabilities. Additionally, I should say that because this is a starter army, I am a firm believer in playing an army that you like. So even if this army, if I recommend something here and it is just not appealing, it doesn't sound like it'd be fun to play, then don't take it. Play what's going to be fun for you. Play the models that you enjoy painting, because that's what's really going to make the hobby engaging and rewarding for you. If you're playing this just to get a win on the table or anything like that, it's not going to be as rewarding for you in the long run. So play the models that you think are fun above all else. That said, let's take a look at the list. Both of them are provided in the link below over on my Facebook page, so go ahead, check it out, follow along. Alright, so for the original list, again in a Brigade detachment, we start off with a Fireblade and an Ethereal in our HQ slot. Our third HQ is a commander with a Flamer, 2 Fusion Blasters, a Multi-Tracker, and 2 Gun Drones. For troops, we have 2 Breacher teams, both 5-man, and then 4 5-man strike teams. One of them includes a support turret. For elites, we have a 3-man stealth suit team with homing beacon, and then 2 crisis suit units. The first crisis suit unit includes 6 gun drones plus the 3 suits, each suit having a burst cannon, a flamer, and a multi-tracker. And then the second unit again has 6 gun drones, each with 2 fusion blasters and a multi-tracker. For fast attack, we have a 5-man Pathfinder squad with a pulse accelerator drone, and then a second Pathfinder team with 2 marker lights and 3 rail rifles, and finally a Piranha with 2 seeker missiles, rounding out our fast attack slot. For heavy support, we have 3 broadsides. One of them has 2 plasma rifles and a heavy rail rifle along with a multi-tracker, or excuse me, a velocity tracker. And then the other 2 have 2 gun drones, then high yield missile pods, smart missiles, and target locks. So that's the 2,000 point Brigade detachment original list that we're working with here. There are a few things that I think are worth commenting on to begin with. The first, we'll just start at the top with the commander. I generally don't like to see flamers on commanders because you're basically giving up the benefit of their 2-up ballistic skill. Commanders are really valuable because of that 2-up ballistic skill, and a flamer hits automatically. So if you're going to bring flamers, you might as well just put them on normal crisis suits and not bring a commander. But because you are bringing a commander, because they're better, give it more effective weaponry, things that you really want it to hit. So things like fusion blasters are great on there. Because fusion blasters don't have any negative side effects like cyclic ion blasters do, the multi-tracker is useful, but it's fine, but it's not necessary. And really, you are giving up a 33% increase in effectiveness on a commander in order to get basically a 1/6 increase in effectiveness with the multi-tracker. So it's better to just take 4 weapons in this case than 3 weapons in a support system on a commander. So there's that. The Fireblade and the Ethereal, both solid choices for a infantry-based list, which I would say this is. The Breacher teams are fine, but they need to have a Devilfish. Otherwise, they're basically worthless. They're just not going to be able to get where they need to be reliably, and they're not going to contribute to the effectiveness of your army, and unless the enemy comes right up next to them. So I would either switch those out for strike teams or give them a Devilfish. Yeah, the tactical support turret, I'm not a big fan of. I would save the points and not bother with that. It's really more of a point sink and a liability than anything. It's not going to contribute to the overall effectiveness of the unit in multiple turns. It's going to be kind of a static thing. So I would skip that. And additionally, here and everywhere else, you'll notice I didn't mention any sergeant units or anything like that. All these units should have the upgrade for the Chasui or the Chasvray, the sergeant equivalent in that unit. It's important that those are included in the army list because they are different than the normal guys. They make a difference in terms of leadership and some other less important characteristics, but really we want that leadership bonus, and that needs to be notated on the list. So just good practice, just something to keep in mind. Make sure that that Chasui gets included in the list. It's a free upgrade. Always do it. For the elites, the multi-trackers on the stealth suits really just bogs them down. They're going to benefit from it, but these are already really expensive units, and I don't think it's worth putting the extra points into them. If I were to put a support system on them, it would be an advanced targeting system to give you the -1. Especially since you already have enough pulse rifle shots elsewhere in the army, more or less. For the crisis suit unit, again, the multi-tracker, especially on the units with the flamers, is not going to be worth it. Multi-tracker on flamer does nothing, so it's really only benefiting the burst cannon, which, we're going to be able to replicate that effect with a single marker light hit. So don't worry about the multi-tracker. Take another weapon instead. Pathfinders, I don't like rail rifles on Pathfinders under a points-based system because it makes them really expensive and they're super fragile. So look elsewhere for those points. Similarly with the Piranha, there's something to be said for the Piranha in terms of its ability to disrupt enemy vehicles and stuff like that, but overall, it's a really situational choice. So I would rather see those points go somewhere else, especially considering how much we're spending on broadsides. Broadsides are really points intensive for what you get, especially if we're looking at comparing a single broadside with high yield missile pods to something like a ion cannon on a hammerhead next to long strike. The hammerhead's going to be better. It's gonna give you a better output than the broadside. So I would pivot away from broadsides. I recognize that this is probably an appealing unit, and that's why it's been taken in triplicate in this army list. So we'll retain some of that, but I would largely recommend shifting away from broadsides and towards hammerheads. So that's the original list. I think it has a good general conceptualization. I think it's relatively well-rounded, but there are some tweaks that we can make to make it a little bit more aggressive. Okay, so for the revised list, again, we're going with a battalion detachment, getting all sorts of sweet command points. But this time we're focusing a little bit more on tanks and suits. So for HQ, we keep that Cadre Fireblade, but we drop the Ethereal in exchange for both a second fusion commander with 4 fusion blasters, and long strike. So now we have 4 HQs in this list, and you'll see why those are so beneficial later on. The long strike, of course, comes equipped with a railgun, 2 gun drones, and then 2 seeker missiles on them. I love seeker missiles on long strike and his accompanying hammerheads, so that's where we're putting the seeker missiles. For troops, I dropped the breacher teams in exchange for strike teams, again because I didn't want to invest in a double fish for them, so I kept them as strike teams. They're also going to benefit more easily from the Fireblade. So, they're going to benefit from the Fireblade, period, because breacher teams don't benefit from the Fireblade. So we have the strike teams in there. They're going to be hanging out with the Fireblade, putting out all sorts of nice Strength 5 pulse rounds. And again, I'm including the Chasui upgrade on these guys. So I have 1, 2, 6 units of strike teams, and they're all 5-man units. One of them has a marker light on the Chasui. For elites, I took a single unit of crisis suits. That unit has 2 standard suits and then a Chasvray. All of them have a single fusion blaster and 2 plasma rifles, as well as 6 gun drones. So it's a pretty beefy unit. And then to support that, I have 2 stealth suit units, but neither of them have a homing beacon because none of these weapons need to be within 9 inches to be effective. The fusion blasters are nice, but it's not required. They're still gonna, do a fair amount of damage without the homing beacon, and I didn't want to weigh down these stealth suit teams any more than I needed to. So 2 3-man stealth suit teams, no support systems, bare bones, but yes, they do have the Shazvray upgrade, of course, for the leadership. Not that you're going to need it with 3-man, but it's there. For fast attack, I have 2 Pathfinder teams, both with marker lights only, and because pulse accelerator drones can be useful at times, I threw them in there for fun. And then a third fast attack choice is just 4 gun drones. If you wanted to, you could bump that up to 6 gun drones if you drop the pulse accelerator drones, not a problem. Heavy support is where we see the biggest changes in terms of points. I retained a single broadside. It has a heavy rail rifle, 2 plasma rifles, and a target lock. We have the target lock on there because we need him to be able to move and shoot. The changes to how heavy weapons work in movement really benefit broadsides in 8th edition compared to 7th or 6th edition, and we want to capitalize on that, but they're still going to take a penalty for moving and shooting, so we want to ignore that. So target lock it is. I also have 2 shield drones on there because I want to take advantage of that 5-up feel no pain for savior protocols, but I also don't think gun drones are going to be as useful throughout the game as these guys could be, just because hopefully the broadside isn't going to be super close to enemy units. So you'd be out of range for gun drones for at least 1 turn. So shield drones it is. The bigger change is that I dropped the other 2 broadsides in favor of hammerheads. These guys are going to hang out with long strike. They're going to benefit from that +1 to ballistic skill, so they're going to be hitting on 2s when they stand still, which is sweet. That really gives them the advantage over broadsides. And they're going to have ion cannons, 2 seeker missiles, and then gun drones. So they're going to have a really good, solid output. Plenty of seeker missiles on here with the marker light support that we have. We're going to be able to fire those at 2-up ballistic skill, no problem, and give a pretty good dent to any big bad guys that we see on the other side of the board with those seeker missiles. So that's the list. A little bit rambly, I know, because it is a brigade detachment, lots of guys to go over, but to summarize again, we have a Fireblade and Long Strike, 2 commanders, a couple units of stealth suits, a crisis unit, a couple units of pathfinders, some drones, broadside, and a couple hammerheads. So pretty concise list aside from the number of units associated with a brigade detachment. So yeah, I think this list will do well against a lot of well-rounded armies. The bulk of the offensive capability are in the commanders and in the hammerheads. The rest of the army is going to be a little bit softer. So if we're going against a super competitive list, it's probably not going to last very long. But especially if you're just starting out, this gives you a good understanding of the mechanics of the army, some of the flexibility of the army, and it's going to give you an opportunity to try out a whole bunch of different strategies. And I think that's really important in a starting army list. This one is going to do well against people that you play when you start playing 40K. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, both these lists are presented in the link below. And as always, happy wargaming.